Hey guys, Kana here. Just wanted to hop on and let you guys know real quick that this podcast and a few others in the future are going to be recorded on Zoom due to COVID and concerns over the virus. My full-time job leads me to be around a lot of people who are from all over coming together in small areas. So just out of concern for all the parties involved, I will most likely be doing the majority of these through Zoom for the time being. So if you guys notice a slight drop in audio quality, that's why. I apologize. Hopefully we can get back to normal ones in person soon, but until then, we will be recording them through Zoom. Still, we'll have them up on YouTube, and nothing's going to change in regards to the schedule. Also, we here at the Small Town Producer Podcast believe that Black Lives do matter. If you guys want to support any of the Black Lives Matter foundations, they still need our support. So if you follow me on any of my social medias, just head on over to my link tree that I have in my bio, and it's the first link to donate. So thank you guys so much, and enjoy the podcast. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Small Town Producer Podcast. Kana Beats here, and I'm joined, as always, by Lukeblood. If you want to keep up with the podcast, just make sure to follow us at Beats by Kana on Facebook, Instagram, all that, Twitter. And then Lukeblood, he's on Instagram at Lukeblooded. And then if you want to watch video of this episode, it's going to be on YouTube, Kana Beats. Today, we are joined by Antwon the Great. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess when we start, typically I like to kind of let the person we're interviewing just kind of tell us some of the things that they've done that they're most proud of, their accomplishments.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, so starting last year, I started up on all the digital platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, so on and so forth. Put together my first EP. It's titled Restless. And that was a really big accomplishment for me because for the longest time, I never had a real body of work to present. So I dropped that, was super proud of that. And in between that time, I just kind of worked on networking, linking with artists. And then in December, I dropped First 48 with Steve Cannon, Little House Phone. For sure has been my biggest song to date, and definitely has opened a lot of doors so far. So,
yeah, that's awesome. That's actually how I found out about you.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah,
it was pretty crazy. That song popped up in my Discover Weekly, which I listened to religiously from.
There you go. Staying in tune. There you go.
Yeah, and I always go. When I hear a song that I like, I always go to the About, and then I scroll down to see if they have their social media links, and you had yours. And
of course, you gotta be on point all the way across the board. Yeah.
So I went and I checked you out, and I was like, this is so cool. Like,
yeah, thank you, man.
I mean, this guy, he's from, he's like close, because you're in Washington, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, that's really cool. He's pretty close, like, and he has, these big artists on his project. And then from there, I just kind of reached out to you and was like, hey, would you want to be on the podcast? So that's awesome how it's happened. So where exactly in Washington are you?
Yakima. It's a pretty small town. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It actually just hit like complex news and everything. We have like a county jail, and a whole bunch of prisoners escaped. And there was like social media videos of them like jumping the fence and like.
Whoa.
Really?
Oh yeah, and it was so funny because like the correction officers, you could just see them like run up to the gate and just like. And they
wow, that's crazy.
It was good. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so Yakima, how close would you say you are to like another big city then?
Seattle's 2 hours away.
Okay.
Seattle's a usual go-to. I go to Orbit Audio Studios in Seattle, and that's where I get tracks like mixed down and everything. And I work with a great engineer by the name of Brian Raphael, and he's been really great on teaching me the whole mixing and mastering side of music that I was completely clueless like a year ago too. So
how did you connect with Brian? Did you just show up one day and he was there and you started asking questions?
Yeah, no. Well, so it kind of came to a point where like I started working with another local artist who goes by the name of Arists, and we did our first show together like last month here in town.
Okay.
And he was like, hey, I really want this to sound right. And so I started looking at studios, found Orbit Audio, and then Brian was the engineer scheduled for that day. And we spent a couple hours in the studio and we just really meshed together and we kind of vibed with each other and then just exchanged contacts and we've been working from there. So
okay, nice. Yeah. Okay, so Arists, I saw you guys have a whole project out together, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how I guess did you connect with him originally, and then how did the project come about?
Yeah, so originally we were actually friends from school for years, and then it was around last year. He was like, hey, I want to get on some tracks, and I hear that, and so I always give people the benefit of the doubt, and I'm like, all right,
yeah.
Come to the house. I have a home studio and a vocal booth and all that in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, let's see what you can do. And I mean, he came on time, came in, laid down a track, sounded good. And I was like, all right, let's go from here.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're looking for people to work with, is that kind of thing a big deal to you, or just another way someone stands out as far as like you said, showing up on time, he was prepared, he knew what he was doing. It seemed like he kind of had his stuff together and it was a good mesh mate, apparently, as far as just being a normal guy. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely a big thing for me is like being on time when there's set schedules. Because, I have a lot going on. So like if I'm like going to make this time, like if you could just like respect it and show up on time. Because if you don't, and then there's like an excuse, then it's like, Right. And also too, like, having your lyrics together and just coming in and just knocking it out. That's definitely a big thing for me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that for a lot of us, I'm sure this has happened to all of us at some point. Like you're talking about, someone hears that we're a producer. We're in a town that's smaller and there's not a whole lot of, maybe not as many, opportunities for people to link up with other people doing music. And you'll have people approach you being like, oh, I want to start doing music. I want to rap. I want to sing or whatever. How, like, kind of, you mentioned like that you've heard this before. What is, what are some of those instances where you've just had to be like, I just don't think that this is going to work. And how did you like approach that with them?
Well, you always want to be respectful because, you never know who's going to be the next Drake, right? So for me, okay, so here's a really good indicator, okay, when First 48 dropped and it started doing numbers, I started having like more people reach out, which is always a blessing, but they're like, hey man, I've been thinking about rapping and I don't got a laptop, I don't got a mic, I don't have a car to make it over, but I swear I can spit, bro.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, if you really want it, you're going to make it happen. And also another good indicator too is like, well, do you have previous tracks out? Even give me a rough SoundCloud track that you did on your computer mic. I don't know, like just have something out there. And that was the thing with Arists, was he was rapping before, he had tracks out. So that was like, okay, it's not the first time because, I prefer to have artists just a little more seasoned when they come in, just because that's who I typically work with from now on. So. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned also giving him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm sure there's always a little bit of a balance there. But if you know somebody like more in person, you've met them face to face, does that help you kind of know if there's kind of a vibe or good energy there versus somebody hitting you up online?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you would just be surprised with people like hitting you up online. Like I posted this on Twitter and I blacked out his name and everything because I didn't want to gas him up. But like the way some artists are approaching producers is pretty crazy. Like I had this guy who was like, yo, your beats are hard. I'm doing $50 a verse, limited time only, hit my line. And I was like, no, I'm okay. And I replied actually with like the Billy Mays with like the OxyClean. And I was like, you sound like with this limited time only stuff. And he put like an hourglass. It was ridiculous. So definitely the first way you approach me and kind of like, it's like, what are the intentions here? Like, do you really want to vibe out and make tracks, or are you just trying to like, just like trying to benefit off of like what I've established so far? You know, approach and the way you initiate conversation, I feel, is very important. And definitely in person is a great way. It's probably the best because you can feel someone's vibe and kind of get a good reading for what the move is going to be next.
Okay. So along the same line, then, if you, assuming you've approached artists or producers in the past, do you have a particular thing you like to do, a particular approach if you're going to message somebody or try and meet up with them and just chat? Like, do you try and just have kind of a conversation first, or do you get right to the point and say, here's what I've worked on?
Yeah, so that's a good point. If they are definitely more established within the industry, a lot of them don't really have time for the small talk, small moves. It's kind of like business, send the beats here. When are we looking to do this, so on and so forth. If you're more a smaller artist or more producer, I would definitely prefer, first off, just talking with each other, just chatting with each other, checking out your catalog, seeing what your sound selection is like, you know, kind of get an idea for what your beats are, so on and so forth. So it definitely depends. But for me, I prefer smaller artists just so I can actually build that relationship with them and we can make that connection for later on.
Okay.
So one thing that me and Luke have talked about a lot on here, especially because so far I think we've mainly worked with what you would consider, you know, smaller artists in the area. One of the things that we're always looking for is output. So like, how much is the artist putting out into the, you know, the music world?
Yeah.
So is that something that you take a hard look at too? Because I mean, there could be an artist that is maybe great, but you know, they're putting out a song like once every 6 months or whatever.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing, because if you're a smaller artist, I want a catalog I can dig through. You know, and I've kind of reflected that myself on like Spotify, you know, so I have like Restless, and then I got like Sunday tapes, which are just like some beats, and like Subliminal Volume 1, which are like beats and like kind of straying away from the hip hop sound selection, and I did some more kind of like upbeat stuff. So it mirrors. So when an artist is like, okay, let me check out this producer, I got a catalog to check through, rather than like, I got these 2 beats on YouTube from like 2 years ago, but this new stuff is hard, bro. Like, you know, it definitely catalog matters for me for sure. And picking artists, just so I also, for artists too, like versatility, like this track was dope, but what about these next 3, you know, kind of like that.
So what, I mean, sounds like you're kind of looking to work with maybe a little more smaller artists and up and coming artists. Maybe that's just because they're very approachable, but is that kind of the long-term goal, is building together with artists versus like getting a big major placement or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think like major placements are great. And they're cool, a good way to get your name out there, build up. But the big industry artists already have their producers, right? So these smaller artists are usually, I don't know, going to BeatStars, maybe ripping it right off YouTube, so on and so forth.
Right.
And so they're looking for that producer to build with, and you might be the right one. You know, like a good example, I got this artist, TJ Dizzle, and I found him on YouTube, like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, and he had this song called Chinatown. It's now almost at like 1 million views.
Dang.
But we worked with each other when he was a smaller artist, and now, you know, he's built up to this view count and fan base, and we still have a great relationship, and we're working on some stuff right now. But initially, building that relationship has got me to where I am now with him, where now he's not really doing any features or getting with other producers. He already has his circle.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So do you dedicate some time to, because in my mind, a producer almost has like an A&R role to some extent, or like kind of finding those underground artists or artists who are kind of coming up and don't have a big following yet. Do you dedicate time to like searching for new artists like that? Okay.
Oh yeah. I use this one website. What is it called? Oh, it's called Hyped It. And it's a website where artists can upload their tracks. And it's everything from like instrumentals, hip hop, EDM, techno, rappers, so on and so forth. And a lot of it, a little iffy, but there's some talent in there if you dig deep enough. And that's like definitely a really good source for finding artists. If I like them, try to find their socials, emails, reach out, and just kind of move from there. And then also, like Kana was talking about, Spotify Discover Weekly. It's crazy, but Spotify will push out to you. And yeah, just kind of always keeping your eyes and ears open and just always willing to look at a track.
Okay. Do you... go ahead, Kana.
Well, I was just going to say, you're talking about these working with these smaller artists versus working with the big placement. I guess if you could talk to us a little bit about how that whole placement thing came about then, and why maybe that swayed you one way or another, and what direction you are wanting to go.
Yeah. Okay. So
I want to hear the story for sure. Sorry to interrupt. I want to hear the story for sure, even if it wasn't instrumental in you deciding what to do.
So first off, fun thing, the beat for First 48 was actually produced on iPad.
Really? Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. And for like about a year and a half, I got really into iPad production because it was just like this whole new realm of production that was like basically undiscovered land. And, I was running like a full DAW, like Cubasis on an iPad. And at one point had a whole home studio, like vocal booth, my MPC, monitors, all running off an iPad.
That's cool.
That's crazy.
So yeah, let's see. So what did I do? So I made the beat on iPad, and I was sitting on it for a while because I didn't know who was going to hit it. And one day I was just like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Steve. Worst thing he's going to say is no. And he was with it. So, I reached out to him, sent him my catalog. He was liking what he heard. So I sent him a pack of beats, and the beat was actually called First 48. And so he picked it. And then like a month or two later, I finally get back his verse, but it's only half a song. So I'm like, okay, you're sitting on something here, but you gotta match Steve to someone of a potential caliber. And so there was this other artist, Lil House Phone, who I've also been listening to for a while, and was like, all right, you know what? I got lucky with Steve. Maybe I can get lucky with Lil House Phone. And so Lil House Phone was a little harder because I had to go through a manager, send him a pack of beats, and then finally Lil House Phone was like, okay, that First 48 one with Steve, that's a go. So made that. Anyway, this whole process started in like March. The song didn't get fully mixed and mastered with all the verses until December.
Dang.
Then finally, once December comes around, I had to get like a lyric video created, do all the playlist reach outs, blog submissions, do it to the playlist curators over at Spotify, so on and so forth. And then it finally dropped. So I've never waited that long on a song before. And for a while, it was almost like, is this even going to happen? Like, am I just another one for the vault, And then it finally came together, and it just went crazier than I ever could have expected. So,
yeah, that's awesome. So I guess, for any producer from a smaller town, it would be pretty intimidating to, like you said, just go for it and just ask someone to get on the track. How did you, what was your approach to that? What advice would you have for someone trying to do that?
Oh man. Sometimes it sounds a little bad, but like sometimes I'm just feeling myself, and I'm like, you know what, these beats are hard. We're shooting them, and I hope he feels the same way.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just gotta have that confidence. You just gotta be like, I'm that producer, and we're gonna do this. And that comes with time. Don't get me wrong, that comes with time. I've been producing for like 7 or 8 years now. I'm 22. I've been doing this since like junior high or freshman year. So it's been a long time coming, but I think it's just like all these buildup of events and things that have just built this confidence where I felt comfortable like shooting these beats to artists with like, millions of views and lyrical lemonade videos and so on and so forth. So I think to the artists and producers out there who want to work in the bigger field, just build that confidence, work on your craft, and know who you are, be confident in who you are. And when you finally have that, or you feel like you have that, then make those power moves. Sure.
Do you feel like a little bit of that confidence was built working with artists you knew personally or local artists or that kind of thing? Or did you just kind of always reach out to online artists, I guess, in other cities?
Well, when I first started out, funny thing, I always didn't make hip hop.
Really?
I started out in like techno electronic music. Like growing up, I was like a huge fan of like Daft Punk, Justice, The Toxic Avenger, Kraftwerk. I just loved techno music. So I started out, and I was initially a duo with my friend Taylor, who used to produce music, and we did that for a while, and then it was just like this natural development to hip hop. And then once I started making hip hop beats, word got around in town, and so I started working with local artists, and I did that for a while, and that definitely helped me out in like the engineering side of things, of like tracking vocals when recording with artists, so on and so forth. And I kind of put music away for a little bit because at the age of like 18, I was out of high school and had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went to college and got my pharmacy tech license. I work in pharmacy.
Nice.
And it was at like 20. I went back to college and was just like, okay, we're just going to keep going to college. And then finally got to a point where I was in class, and I knew what I wanted to do. I kept lying to myself and saying that the music stuff wasn't going to work out. So I kind of gave myself an ultimatum, like, all right, you're going to do music for a whole year. And if you don't have some significant growth by the end of this year, you're going to hang it up. And next month will be a full year from that time. And now, we just cracked 100K on Spotify. So like fulfilling this ultimatum I gave myself definitely was like the ultimate confidence booster, because it was, either do it or hang it up and, get the degree like everybody else.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Exactly.
So do you feel, that kind of came out of like all in mixed with, I guess, setting a goal. Do you continue to set goals kind of besides that for yourself? Or do you just kind of know you want to reach out to an artist and just go for it at that point?
Yeah, well, kind of at this point, it's more of just like reaching out to artists, knowing who I want to work with, and just going for it. Not everybody's going to say yes. You're going to get some doors closed on you, and that's okay. That's definitely part of it. I've got more doors slammed on me than open, but that's just the name of the game. That's just what it is, and you got to be accepting of that.
Yeah. Was there something that kind of drove you to that? Some kind of experience that you were like, or was music just always kind of stuck in the back of your head?
Yeah, it's crazy. I can still remember making my first beat, and I just remembered like this feeling like, wow, this is it right here. This is where it's at.
Yeah.
And it's just a feeling that's never left. And that's when I just kind of knew like there's something about this that's telling me like I need to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you have any advice you would give either to yourself or to someone else who's sitting in class, struggling with like, I'm in school, like this feels like a good career move, but I know that I want to do music? Yeah.
I think if that voice is strong enough, you should follow and know why you're doing music, because I've also noticed like with up and coming artists, there's definitely a lot of people doing music now just because it's like the thing to do, or like, I'm looking to become like famous or rich. And I'm just going to tell you, you're not going to become rich from music for a very, very long time. I have dropped, I don't know, just ridiculous thousands of dollars. And now I'm generating income from like Spotify and publishing and so on and so forth. But to reach that initial point of investment, it's going to be a long time, a very long time. So I feel like people are getting into it for the wrong reasons. You know, you want to get into it because you feel it. Like when I made that first beat, I just got that feeling in me like, wow, this is something special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had someone pop up in chat one time and they were asking me, they're like, is it worth it to become a producer? I was like, well, what do you mean worth it? Like, because I have fun doing it. And they're like, no, is there like money in it? And I'm like, no.
Nope. You were looking in the wrong place.
I'm like, go be a doctor or something, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. There's some money in becoming a doctor for sure. Yeah, music, good luck.
So, okay, so I guess then talk a little bit about, if you could, what it looks like for you working with people and what you're trying to do when you're in Yakima versus maybe when you go take a trip out to like Seattle. So like, you know, what are the different things you're looking to do in each city?
So for me at home, typically what I'm looking to do when I'm home is, you know, I have them come to my house. We hit the booth, whatever, we record, kind of get some rough drafts in, and then kind of pick and choose like, okay, what are we looking to do here? We're looking to do a project, single, what's our concept, ideas, so on and so forth. And then we get these ideas fleshed out and kind of what direction we want to take the song. But in Seattle, when you're going to the studio costs money. And you need to have your ideas fleshed out. So when I'm going to the studio in Seattle, I'm already locked in. I know what I want to do. And then I'm just kind of like, at that point, I'm working with Brian to like create this vision I have for the track in my head. And Brian, he has the skills and the knowledge to make that vision become a reality. So those are kind of like the different aspects. I feel like at Yakima, at home base in the studio, it's kind of like the building grounds. And then at the studio in Seattle is where we're going to execute.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, because Seattle has a pretty big, from what I understand, I mean, I don't know a ton, but they have a pretty big hip hop scene going there now, especially with like Lil Mosey and stuff popping off there.
Oh, yeah.
So like, have you gone there specifically just to network and to try to meet some of these artists?
Not yet, but that's definitely this year's move for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. Is that just haven't spent the time, been busy with other things kind of thing, or is it kind of something you gotta, like an uncomfortable thing you gotta put yourself in?
No, for sure. So the thing is just like, so I work full time, and that's just kind of like a big drainer. And you know, after the success of everything, I'm finally able to move down from 40 hours a week to 32 hours a week at my job.
That's awesome.
So now I have that additional day. So now I'm just kind of plotting and scheming like, okay, where are the places to network? Where are the places to go to? Because there's a lot of untapped talent in Seattle that is just ready to make some hits. And this summer, definitely. But I just got to figure out where to go to. I'm thinking probably like some low key shows. You know, I got to figure out if they're still doing like ciphers or rap battles or something like that. Or I just got to figure out where the talent is. And it's kind of like playing that A&R role, you know what I mean? Just kind of scoping out where the new talent is and just going in for it.
Yeah. Was it hard to find talent in Yakima? Like, was it people you knew from school and stuff like that a lot, or did you find them online or at events?
So for Yakima, like really the only person who I've put like serious work into music wise was Arists.
Okay.
I did meet at that first show we did last month, another guy by the name of Slug OTR, who we networked in person at the show, and he seemed cool. And I haven't sent him a pack yet or anything, but I think he's definitely someone I could work with for sure. So for Yakima, it's just kind of different, I guess you could say. Because the people who are working on music, I feel like aren't really open to the whole network thing. They're kind of like tapped in their own their own zone, which is cool, you know, do your thing. But it just, the moves are kind of different.
The parallels between the two cities is very interesting because
over there in Boise,
that's something that we found here too a lot, is that people get into their little group and
their little cliques. Yeah.
And it's like no one, not to be rude or anything, but I mean, no one is making moves yet or anything, but they still don't want to expand outside and work with people. Like, have you like ever tried to maybe break through that because you really want to work with someone, or is that just something where you're just like, no, I'm good then, like I don't need that?
I mean, most of the time, if I've reached out to an artist in my town, they're usually down to link.
Okay.
They're with it for sure. It's just the way some people move is a turnoff for me in working with them.
Okay.
You know, and it's cool to feel yourself for sure, but like there's some points where it's just like, I don't know. It's just a turnoff, you know,
like an ego,
like not really moves being made, but you're acting like you're like top 10 on Billboard. So it's just like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. A disconnect between kind of the ego and the confidence and the actual output that you're seeing.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
That.
Okay. So are there a lot of local shows that happen in Yakima that you're able to go and like check out, or is it?
No, not really. And that's why it was super crazy, because there's not a lot of shows. And then, you know, Arists and I, we did a show when there's not a lot of shows, and there was like a line out the door to get in this place. And there was like a main headliner by the name of like Big Tone, who's like a big Bay Area artist. And it was just crazy because the amount of shows in Yakima are so small, and to have this crazy turnout was just nuts.
Yeah.
Okay. Was this something that you guys organized, or was this just a show that you just happened to get on as an opener?
Yeah, Arists was the one. I'm pretty sure he like networked with a promoter or something like that. And then he just connected the dots and was like, hey, you know, I need you to be on the boards when I'm performing. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So
okay, nice. That's awesome. So primarily now, though, when you're reaching out to new artists or looking for new artists, it's not necessarily local artists, or is it kind of a combo?
Most of the time, it's not local artists. Yeah. There's a handful. There's Sterling, who I did a little two-track project with. He's pretty dope. There's also another group called Natural Habits, who's also from my area, and it's a two-guy group. And they're really dope. And then Arists, of course. But other than that, those are really the only local artists I'm reaching out and working with. I mean, I'm always open and looking for new talent. But most of the time, the artists I work with are networking out of town, for sure.
Okay. And then you just send them a pack of beats kind of thing. And then if they have any interest, you go from there.
Yep. Exactly. The game plan. Shoot it on the Google Drive and just go from there.
Okay. So what is your like advice you would have? Because I think sometimes producers, when they're creating packs to send, and me and Luke were talking about this too, you kind of get in your own head about like what beats you should send, like if they should be beats that you think the artist would get on, or if you should send something outside the box because maybe the artist is looking to kind of switch up the sound a little bit. Like, what do you usually do?
Yeah, I would say send those out of the box beats, because I swear every time I'll send like 5 beats, and it's always that one that I'm like, should I send this? And it's always like, that was the hardest one in there. And it's like,
yeah.
You know, it always for some reason works like that. I don't know what it is, but
definitely weird. Yeah, I've noticed that too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Awesome. So you said that when you've been going to the studio, you've been learning a lot from, I think you said his name was Brian.
Yeah.
For engineering. Is that something that you think that all producers should really seriously learn how to do, is do all the engineering and all of that stuff?
It's good to wear that hat for sure. Because like I'll see some people post like producer, mixing engineer, master, and like from personally going into the mixing and mastering thing, it's very hard to be good at all three of those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're all three different arts. And I think it's good to wear that hat, because let's say I didn't know Brian and I was like, hey, can you mix this song for me? And he's going to be like, oh yeah, $200 and it's going to be 4 weeks. I know that personally I can mix a song if I want it to sound really good in like 3 hours. So I know for a really skilled engineer, it might take 1 to 2 hours. So it's good to wear those hats. So when you do need to reach out and have someone do that job, you know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, too, just being able to, like you said, record a scratch track or a rough track in your house and then go to the studio and have kind of like a reference or something like that you can build off of sounds really valuable. Yeah,
too. And also, like, let's say like the artist I'm working with doesn't want to pay to have this mixed and engineered. I can kind of give them a rough mix to kind of work with, or, you know, if it's someone I like really, really want to work with who's local and they don't really have money to do it, I can mix a track. It's not going to be great as like Brian's engineering, but you know, I understand the basics and the concepts of mixing, so we can make this track sound solid. Yeah. Like with the 2-track project I did with Sterling, I did the whole mixing process on that. And it made me realize I'm glad I'm not an engineer, because I just wanted to pull my hair out during that whole process. It's just a lot. But I wore that hat, so I know what should be done when mixing is done.
Right. Okay.
How important do you think it is for local artists to decide whether or not they're going to go and get stuff mixed and mastered? Because I feel like a lot of times people maybe get hung up on just making sure that they're getting music out there, so they record something, throw it out on SoundCloud, and then call it good. You know, what would you suggest for an artist? Like, do they need to go and get it mixed and mastered every time, or what?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you have a project or a track and you're like, I really want this, I want this to hit, I want this just to let's blow it out the water. Yeah, I mean, go and get it mixed and mastered. If you're just throwing some SoundCloud loosies out there, you know, just do all reliable, throw a limiter on it, you know, rough like EQ, little compressor, and just shoot it. Or, I mean, even back in the day, we wouldn't even do that on GarageBand. We would just record the vocals and just kind of dial it down a little bit and just shoot it on SoundCloud, and that was the move.
Yeah.
So
nice. Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's still building your catalog and probably attracting people who are kind of in a similar boat to you or trying to work with you, so you can kind of see where you're at. So that makes sense. You also talked about promoting projects. Are you involved in that quite a bit for new releases and stuff?
Yeah. So when I first started releasing music on like Spotify and all that, I kind of learned like, okay, how does this music get out to people? Because forever I put music on SoundCloud, and I remember like putting a track out and being like, okay, this is the one that's going to do it. And it got like 10 plays. And, you know, to rewind to that moment when I decided it was all in or nothing, I had to learn about, hey, how does music actually get promoted? So I learned about like playlisting, blogs, so on and so forth, PR runs. And so, I got really, really in depth with that. I have like Excel worksheets of like emails and all this stuff. I went really hard. So now when I release tracks and promote, it's almost this automated process because I have all my tools and I have all my materials. So it's just like boom, 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 boom.
Okay. Yeah, because it feels like I haven't done too much of that, so it feels like a little bit of a mystery, right? Like,
it's a big mystery. It's a big
right.
mystery.
Okay, so would you recommend just doing the work, put in the work to get that set up, and then it sounds like it's a little smoother after that, right?
It is for sure. Like, it is a mystery, and there's not a lot of content or knowledge out there to really tell people how does this music get out there, right? It's just like a mystery, like, oh, well, he's a big artist on a big label, that's how he's blowing up. But in reality, it's all these like little small blocks connecting.
Yeah.
And I also learned another thing. I don't know if this is talked about, but I guess Spotify really looks to see if your music is on search engines. Like, is this project mentioned in this blog article? If it is, So it's all like search engine optimization and all like this
right
stuff. Yeah.
Okay. What did you do to kind of dig in when you first were like, I got to figure this out? Just start researching or listening to podcasts, find YouTubers talking about it?
Yeah. So, I was definitely like really big on podcasts. Let me see. I got my phone here. Let me open up some.
Yeah, go for it.
One that was really good is the Music Business Podcast with Sam Heisel and Jordan Williams. They're both like manager. Yeah. Really great podcast. A lot of game in there.
Yeah, totally. Definitely recommend checking that out.
Mm-hmm. Another one was Creative Juice by Entrepreneur. That was a great one. Also, another thing too is just like kind of reading online articles and just like soaking up all the knowledge you can. So once you've soaked up all this knowledge, you can kind of develop your own game plan, because everyone's marketing game plans are kind of different. For sure. And also another big thing I started utilizing more recently is targeted advertisements. And when you start using your statistics and analytics from your music and you start targeting demographics and audiences and towns with that, it's crazy. Super.
Okay. So pre-existing songs that you have out there, you're kind of digging into those analytics and kind of developing a target audience basically that you can push to further. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And another kind of like low key thing too is with these targeted ads, the viewers in America and Canada cost more money, but overseas they're cheaper per click and are also more open to this new American music. Because people in America kind of already have our choice selection. I don't want to hear this new stuff. People over in Australia really, really like my music, and they're open to this American music, and I can target more of them for lower ad per click cost.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Nice. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about how when you get an artist in there, you guys are sitting around and talking about what you want the project to be, what you want it to look like. Is this promo also a part of the conversation that you guys are having? And how much of that do you think falls on the artist to do, and how much do you think the producer needs to do?
Most of the time the artist isn't super interested in the whole promo part. And when they solo release music, I feel like that's where it falls short, right? Because they worked really hard on this, but they also don't realize this whole other half of the race where it's like promotion, marketing, how are we going to do an interview, a blog to get it out there to more people, right? Because like if a tree falls in the woods with no one around, no one's going to hear it. And that's essentially what the track's going to do. So I always bring up marketing and promotion to the artist, kind of get a vibe of their response. And like Arists, for example, was with it. And like, I remember I was working on beats and he was on the laptop, like doing YouTube targeted ads and stuff. So that's it's just kind of what the artist wants and how bad they want it. And do they want this to work?
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
So instrumental though, it sounds like you feel like it's instrumental for a track to start gaining some traction is to have kind of a release plan that goes beyond just getting it on all the platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just so much music out there now. It's kind of like you're almost shooting yourself in the foot if you don't promote and market and have some type of game plan. Just tweeting like, hey, check out this new track and having a couple of your friends retweet it. It's just not going to cut it these days. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much music. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think even 24K Golden was saying in an interview that anytime he dropped a track, like he would just do something as simple as just send it individually to every single person in his contact list and be like, can you please listen to this and like let me know what you think of it. And I thought that was super interesting because it's like, yeah, maybe you're gonna annoy people, but I mean, you also, if you're making good music, maybe people be interested and check it out. They hadn't
Yeah,
thought
that's
of
the
it.
thing for sure too. Like if it's good music, inside if it's good, then people are gonna want to listen to it. People always want to hear new music. But it's also like too, I feel like on that point, there's a very fine line between promoting your music and spamming your music. And if you start to become a spammer in people's eyes, they're just going to be like, oh God, here's another track.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
It's a fine line, but you got to know your balance for sure.
Yeah.
Would you say that it helps to kind of avoid that line of being spammy when you take the next step? Because like maybe if someone's just sending me a bunch of like SoundCloud Lucy's, like you say, and they just and I can tell that they're just songs that they're just like recording, throwing up on the SoundCloud, calling it good, sending it to me, being like, what do you think? Versus people who actually are doing these songs, mixing them even at the very least, and then sending it to me. I feel like I'm a little more receptive to it because I can tell.
Yeah, exactly.
You
put some work into it. Exactly that. Exactly that. And I feel like people can see it. People can tell. You know, if he's been grinding and working on this, they can tell. Or if it's just a SoundCloud Lucy.
Yeah, I've definitely found, at least for me, that a lot of times you don't realize people are listening until you like bump into them or something like that in person, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I listened to like everything you put out." They just aren't telling.
Isn't that crazy? I know.
Right. And so like I think sometimes if you give them a chance to like be a little more interactive, or give them like a preview so they feel like, oh hey, he's like sending this to me because he wants to hear my opinion on it, kind of thing. I think that can probably go a long ways. So
I know it's crazy too, like how you said on that, like people you would never expect to be like, oh yeah, I heard that whole project, it was cool. And I feel like that's almost kind of like the low-key best way of promotion and marketing is word of mouth, because it's like someone who's not the artist giving you that cosign.
Do you so I guess that kind of goes back to an interesting idea. I mean, do you feel like it's necessary to have followers on social media and that kind of thing to make some moves? Or do you feel like you still have followers just through Spotify? Because Spotify feels a little bit disconnected to me, right? You can't directly interact. Do you feel like you have kind of a direct interaction with people who might consider themselves fans or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, I feel like followers on social media, they are nice, but for me at least, they don't really mean much. I feel like social media, like I've seen people with like 10K followers, but like 2 plays on their songs. And I feel like at sometimes social media is kind of this facade, because you know, if I really wanted to look like poppin', I could just go on some site and buy 10K followers, and then, you know, kind of buy the clout, right? But you can't buy the talent in producing music. It has to be earned. And I feel like people can tell when the producer is really seasoned and talented, and doesn't always equate to social media followers. But the followers I do have are very interactive, and, you know, we talk and we message. And I would rather take like a Twitter. I think I have like 80 followers or 70 followers. I'd rather take those 70 followers who I get to interact with and talk with over 10K of silence, right?
So. I think that's a big point too. And I think I feel the urge to want to like grow my following, right? Instead of like taking the time to actually interact with the people who care about what I'm doing right now. So I think that's a really good point that you made.
It's always good. Yeah. Just to grow that small little base of fans, because like I said earlier, the whole word of mouth thing, if I have these like 70 to 80 like small niche followers, they're telling 3 of their friends, times that by 80, and that's a whole new circle. And it just keeps feeding. So,
and I think it kind of comes back to the catalog too, because the proof for you in particular, it's in the work. If somebody goes and checks it out, then they're going to see that. And if they're an artist or whatever, want to work with you, or just want to keep tabs on what you're working on. So, which, speaking of what you're working on, Restless 2, is coming up. Is that right?
EP. Yeah, we're working on that. I'm working on this track with Terminology. He's a rapper who's been around for a while, worked with like Static Selecta, Premiere, definitely like legend in the game. So that's going to be a crazy move. Also 2020, I'm also looking to starting to like actually sell beats. That's something I've never really tapped into, like the whole beat stars and all that stuff. I've never really done that before. It's always been just an artist to artist kind of connection. But like last week I started Track Train. So I'm trying to,
nice.
Yeah, I'm getting the scoop on that and kind of taking my time and learning how it all works and then kind of execute my moves and then just hit on that. So
very cool. So I want to swing over then to the producing side of things. Do you have, is there like a group of producers over there that you know, or is there anyone that you work with in Yakima or maybe in Seattle in like the production side of things?
For producers from Yakima, there's a producer named Dylan Rowley who we just worked on some beats. We've known each other for a while, and we just cooked up a little something. And one of those beats will be on Restless 2 for sure. But the producer community, for the most part, I say small to none for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So then have you tried to find other producers maybe in like Seattle or something to work with, or are you just kind of content to just work by yourself and you haven't really
for the most part I'm pretty content by myself.
Okay.
No, that's pretty common, I think, and especially when you're in a small town and it doesn't feel like anybody else or nobody else kind of matching your energy or your style or whatever. It can be hard, I think, to branch out like that. So
yeah, for sure. And like honestly too, like I just recently got like a bunch of new like VSTs and stuff. If you want to tap in on that combo, I'll give some of the secret sauce. But yeah, like with some of the new VSTs I just have so much sound selection that like I feel like I almost don't need to connect because I have like just whole new sounds right here on the MacBook ready to go. Yeah. You know, and I need to like learn these new tools before I decide to go network with the next guy or connect with someone new for sure.
Okay.
So yeah, kind of just like as far as you don't feel like beat block really coming on or anything like that. I mean, because I know that's a lot of times the reason people will use loops or work with other producers is to kind of combat that or to just stay motivated even.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like it's always this like weird balance. Like sometimes I find myself using loops. Like I got this crazy complete collection from this producer Mario Luciano, super fire. And you know, I'll find myself using those loops sometimes, but then I'm like, I kind of want to make my own vibe, and I'll like load up Korg Triton and start picking through some really weird like vintage collections and just make some crazy stuff. So you know, it's always just depends. Having a large arsenal definitely helps with beat block for sure.
So have you not done any of like the trying to send out melodies to bigger producers or anything like that?
Nah, nothing like that. I recently had definitely a big producer follow me just kind of out of the blue. So I think in the future that'd be cool to send him a pack. But for right now, I kind of am working on my stuff for Restless 2 and everything. So once I get that stuff all knocked out, then I think it'll be moves for more of like the Track Train stuff, sending out melodies to bigger producers to work and network and stuff like that for sure.
Okay. So what is some of the VSTs that you have then? Do you have any suggestions for people looking to
Korg Triton
stuff?
Korg Triton goes crazy. I remember like hearing about it like back in the day, like with the Neptunes using it, like Timberland and everything. And I remember looking at them used and they were like $1,000, and then Korg released it for $250, which is still a little expensive because Logic was like $200 itself. But it was a great $250 because it has just endless sounds and it's just a powerhouse. I mean, because I hear a lot of people using what's the name of that? Omnisphere. Yeah, and I feel like everyone kind of using the same VSTs is kind of like everyone reproducing these like I don't want to say in a way everyone's reproducing the same sounds, but like when you go on YouTube and you hear the type beats, they're like pretty familiar in the most parts.
I know what you mean, because I have Omnisphere, and there's some sounds in there that's like you hear them all over the place.
Yeah.
Like they get recycled for sure.
Yeah. And like the Korg Triton, it's from like the 90s and 2000s. So you're almost like jumping into this time machine and you have all these unused, untapped sounds, which are just crazy. So yeah, you know, I'm always down to like look into weird unknown VSTs because you never know what you're gonna find.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you sample at all, or do you mostly stick to? Okay.
Yeah, I love sampling. I'm a big fan of like soul sampling. I love to go to Crazy Cow Records down in Seattle, up in Pike Place Market, and I just dig through and find like soul samples or like really weird spoken word vinyls, and I'll record them, and then I'll run them through this sampler I have called Morgana, which Morgana basically like emulates what the 80s and 90s samplers were, kind of give it that distorted sound and everything, and just end up making something crazier than I could find on like a loop kit or something like that. So
have you run into any problems using samples at all, or no?
No, because typically the samples I like to find are like really obscure stuff that was never like set up with a label or anything.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't really have to worry about it. Like most of the time you can't even find these vinyls online or like a trace of them. So it's kind of like, you know.
Really? Free
game.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that, but that's good advice for anyone out there who likes to sample. Then just look for ones that aren't attached to a label. Then you don't, there's nothing really to worry about.
Exactly that. Yeah, like when my local record store here in Yakima, Off the Record, was closing down, I went in, scooped up a bunch of vinyl, but right by the door they had a bin of free records, just throwaways, and my friend was actually digging through it, and he picked up a vinyl, and it was the 1979 Tacoma Choir, so from Tacoma, Washington. Wow. And he was like, wow, who would want to listen to this? And I was like, whoa, let me see this. I was like, there's something about this.
Choir sounds,
Took it home, found a sample off the rip, and it was the listen track with Sterling I released. And it's a choir sample in the beginning. And, it was just a school choir from 79. So I don't have to hear anything. Exactly.
That's crazy. School choir, awesome. Man. I might have to dig through like some old church choir videos or something. There's probably some gold hidden in there.
There's a lot of stuff out there. You'd be surprised. It's just prime, ready to be sampled. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that you got a pack from Mario Luciano, and I mean, that's kind of his whole deal, right? Is he's making these sounds that they sound like they're samples, but they're just all by him with working with choirs and like orchestras and stuff. And
his sounds are just like, I don't think I've ever heard loop or sample kits of that caliber so far. I mean, I wish he was more known, but in a sense, I love having these samples that I don't really hear around and everything. But I mean, the guy really deserves some recognition, man. I mean, his samples are just out the chain. I mean, they're nuts.
Yeah.
Super talented.
Awesome. All right. So I guess winding down here, if there is like a producer or an artist and they are looking to work with you or anything, what is something that you want to see from them before you decide that you're going to kind of let them into the inner circle, so to speak?
Yeah, if you want to work with me, just reach out to me, DM me, send me some songs. Let's just talk about like what you're looking to do, and kind of go from there. If we really are going to work on something, I never charge artists for beats. If you're looking to just like do a quick track real fast, then I guess, I could direct you over to Track Train, which just started, so that's nice. But if you're really looking to work, just reach out to me, and I'm always open to hearing new artists and producers. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, right on. And then do you do splits with the artist though before you, or is it just you just
Oh yeah, for sure. Anything I work on, 50-50 split all the way across the board. You know, if you're set up with a professional rights organization, 50-50 down the splits. And yeah, for sure. That's what I always like to do with artists, for sure.
Nice.
Okay. And then Luke, do you have any other questions or?
I'm just excited, man. I'm gonna like go listen to some podcasts now about
dude, tap in, dude. I am a
stuff.
podcast fiend, dude. I listen to them all day. Oh yeah.
Okay, I might message you later and get like the full list.
Oh yeah, I got a good list on Spotify for sure.
Cool. Yeah,
that's awesome. So, what are some of the things that you have coming out that you want people to be looking out for then?
For sure, Restless 2 on the way very soon. I got the track with Terminology, and also Track Train. I'm going to have that pretty booming here soon. I'm hoping by the end of March I can have like 50 plus beats uploaded because I'm sitting on a pretty large archive.
Okay. So, awesome.
Yeah.
And then how can people get in contact with you, follow you, and see what you're doing?
Twitter, Instagram, at Antwon the Great. You can find me on YouTube as well. But primarily Twitter and Instagram, best way to get at me. DMs are open, so get at me.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate you for coming on and talking.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
Much knowledge.
Huge honor. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that was great. Loved it.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.